Jon Baker.
Jon Baker.
Yeah.
Why is that name so familiar?
Well, yeah, maybe he's one of the fabulous Baker boys. I'm going to ask him that.
No, he writes that really popular blog.
Right. He writes about real estate and housing all across Canada, and that's the whole country.
Thanks, Norm. And radio commercials, he does that too?
Yes, he does. But the big question is...
What's the big question?
Does he bake?
Gosh, you're totally going to ask him that, aren't you?
Of course. I want to know. Don't you want to know?
I want to know.
You want to know?
You guys want to know.
I think so.
Jon!
Hey! So, Jon Baker, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
I have to ask, are you one of the fabulous Baker boys?
You know what's funny? I'm not, but at my parents' house they have the poster up. They bought it whenever it came out.
You see, how did I know? I had this instinct to ask you, and it actually turns out that there's a tie.
Yeah, there's a bit of a tie.
Are you a fabulous baker? Like you're fabulous all around?
I am fabulous.
Yeah.
Clearly.
And I am a baker.
Yeah. There you go.
Do you make pastries? Are you also that kind of
Pastry.
a baker?
I made a really nice banana bread. I had a bunch of frozen bananas.
Okay.
I made a really nice banana bread the other night. I could have brought it in.
You did, but you didn't.
I didn't.
Right.
No,
You didn't.
sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Mark that down.
So this is a show about local writers.
That's
Maybe
right.
we can move into that
So
direction.
he's a baker
I
and
didn't
a
even
writer.
write the recipe down.
Okay. Tell us all about yourself. You're primarily a blogger right now?
Yes. So now blogging, but prior to that, going back to the mid-90s, I started out writing radio commercials.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Yeah.
I wrote radio commercials here, and I did that for a long time. And occasionally I'd voice some if they needed. A lot of the on-air people won't do characters, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if they needed a character, they would do it. And one of the things I always thought was funny was that everybody at a car dealership or a furniture store was always overstocked. I always thought someone needs to be fired. Like who's buying this stuff?
Right.
Because their buyers clearly suck.
They're always having a sale on, right?
We're overstocked.
We're overstocked,
For sure.
Yeah.
So how did you get into writing radio commercials? I mean, did you go to school for that, or?
Yeah, so I went to broadcasting at Algonquin.
Okay.
And one of the teachers, actually, I'll give a plug to Algonquin, because one of the teachers said, you go to university to get a degree, you go to Algonquin to get a job.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard that before, for sure.
And it's true. So it was pure laziness, to be honest with you. When they were going through all the jobs you could do at the radio station, I didn't want to get up early in the morning to do mornings. And I figured it's a local, like, how many clients are they going to have? Maybe I'll write like 3 commercials.
Right.
And I wrote a lot more than that, because we had to fill the time, so it was a lot of public service announcements.
Okay.
And then I did my co-op at, I guess I could say the name of the station, right? Because
Sure.
it's not around anymore. It was Energy 1200.
Okay.
And Energy and Magic.
Okay.
I did my co-op there, and then one of the writers left. And because I was familiar with them, or they were familiar with me, they said, why don't you come back and make no money?
Yeah.
So
Radio's not the place anymore.
No.
To make.
It's
to
not,
make money.
huh?
It really is.
Well, it's changed.
it really is.
It has changed. And so I did that for a while. At one point I was the creative director, but then they got bought.
Oh, okay.
And then my job changed, and I went back to just being a regular writer, which was great. I loved it. But at one point you just kind of can't go any further writing radio commercials. And then another job came along at the Canadian Real Estate Association, where they hired me just as communications.
Okay.
And I was writing extremely entertaining stuff about real estate.
Okay. That's an interesting
Okay,
combo.
give us a little
Yeah,
example.
can you give us an
Actually,
example?
one of the things I wrote that is really, I'm not, tooting my own horn or anything.
Well, why not?
Why not?
You're here. You're here to toot your own horn because we're here to put the writers in the spotlight.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
whole point.
no,
So it
absolutely.
was a really informative booklet about marijuana grow-ops.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, if you're a realtor, you look at it as what to look for in selling a home.
Right.
Was this place a grow-op? Was it a meth lab, et cetera, et cetera?
And do you get more money if there's a grow up?
Well, you could. Or if you want to have a grow-up, you can get a hold of this booklet and go, okay, so they're going to check my power meter. They're going to, LED lights are the way to go.
Ah, right. Okay.
You can look at it as a how-to manual.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I wrote a how-to manual on how to make a grow up.
Wow, so with all that knowledge, you could probably open up a clinic now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, wow.
So I wrote that. So it was a lot of that, and then they asked me to be a speechwriter for the association.
Okay.
The Canadian real estate. Okay.
So that became it was a pretty regular thing because a lot of the elected officials would go from city to city or whatnot to give a report just on what the association's activities are doing, and but it kind of became a standard speech that you would just sort of update certain sections for whatever market they were going to. So if they were going to be out west, you'd throw the statistics in for the west, or whatever, if something was happening in that market.
Yeah.
And then that sort of got put on the back burner. And then they asked me if I would do this blog for them.
Okay.
This is funny, sorry to interrupt, how with most people, you start with one particular job and you have no idea where it's going to lead,
yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
I guess that's life now,
life.
right?
It is,
I mean, we
is,
make different career changes.
But you open doors for yourself as well, like because you writing in this experience, somebody finds out you're doing that and they want you for this, which is pretty cool.
And it was, and the blog that I did, that I wrote, or that I'm writing, sorry, it's called The Weekly Blend, and it was basically just an aggregate of stories across the web about real estate. But they weren't necessarily about real estate. If there was something interesting that you think somebody might find funny or quirky, I'd throw that in. I'm so tired of, and no offense to anybody living in one, but the whole tiny home thing. Like, enough.
Right.
I saw like so many stories on tiny homes, and they're great. They're environmental, but they don't impress me anymore. Go really tiny.
So was a majority? Were you finding you were writing an awful lot about that? Like, was that?
There was a lot. You'd see a lot of those stories about tiny homes. A lot of stories about what other cities are doing to become more green, I guess.
Okay.
And it's interesting to see how far along other places are.
So I want to take us back to radio for a second, because I had a thought while you were talking about it. So when you were writing commercials for the first time, was that like the first time? Had you done any writing previous to that?
Just,
really?
High school stuff or whatever, university stuff. Like, but nothing for pay or like no, nothing was published ever.
Okay, so here you are, and you're about to write a commercial. Did it freak you out at all to think that the words that I'm writing are going to be heard by many, many people? Like, did that make you nervous, or? No,
that didn't bother me. Or make me nervous. It was it was what the client was going to say, because I was always concerned with the end result, because I worked for them, really. And I worked for the station, but I worked for them. But the other thing was, I never got attached to anything that I wrote. Like, that was always sort of my, like, in the back of my mind. It was like, if they don't like it, who cares? And it was never like a bad who cares. And it was like, if they don't like it, great. I'll just keep it, and someone else will come along with another car dealership or another restaurant.
But do they come to you, like, do you write your first draft and send it to them, and do they come back and say, okay, well, we like this, but can you change that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Always. And to that point, there was one sales rep who constantly, she was changing her mind over this restaurant, and it was like a little diner, and just out of pure hatred of the rep.
Right.
I don't even remember her name right now.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah. And I don't know what happened to her, but actually she borrowed my Twister board. Anyway.
Whole other story. Whole other show.
But she wanted this ad for this diner, and I was so mad at her. So I wrote this ridiculous, over-the-top, like Saving Private Ryan kind of commercial where this guy was dying, and all he wanted was the sergeant who was like cradling him to tell him about the breakfast special at this diner.
My gosh.
And so he lived at the end, and I'm like, here you go, like, be done with it. And she took it to the client, and they loved it. And they went on like for 4 years of these just over-the-top, ridiculous, like apocalyptic commercials.
Yeah, that is too funny.
Yeah, so that worked out. Out of anger came this.
You never know.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You never know what the client wants.
Yeah.
And so can I ask a question? Do you get paid like a flat rate for writing it, or every time it airs?
Oh God, I wish.
I mean, writers, sometimes that happens, right? Like, I mean, anytime. somebody wants to shoot or do a play, they have to buy the rights to the script, right?
No, I mean, these ads would air, and then, the next year their Christmas special would come back or whatever, and you just pull it out, and if they liked the ad, but it was always a
flat
flat rate.
rate.
Occasionally, you'd get a gift certificate for the restaurant.
Right.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Or a shirt. That was like, that was very rare.
So when you're writing these commercials, what did you learn? What kind of skills did you hone while you were working these commercials?
And it's funny because it helped me get the job at the Canadian Real Estate Association, because the person who interviewed me there used to work in radio. And he said to me, one of the reasons he hired me was because he knew I could whittle down, like get through the crap basically, and just get to the meat of the message. And that was sort of what the main thing I think I learned from it was what doesn't matter and what needs to be said and what words you could just eliminate altogether.
Good skill.
Yeah, it was. At the beginning, when I started doing it, nobody had websites. And then they started putting in websites, and I remember another sales rep saying, no one's going to care, www. And of course now, I mean,
everybody
boy, was she wrong.
Yeah. It's like, that internet thing, that'll last for a couple of years and then it'll die down.
And then some crazy person said, why don't we drop the www, because we're taking up, a second and a half in a 30-second ad. Yeah. Oh, we can't drop that. No one's going to know what to do. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And people have gotten used to that now. Just hearing the whatever.com without the W's, they know. They know exactly.
Because it used to be phone numbers, and then they added a 613, so it's just easier to do. But it was dropping the stuff that wasn't important,
and when you only have 30 seconds or so, right? Every single word, like you said, it's critical.
Yeah.
Maximum impact, right?
Well, for sure, because you've got, like you said, 30 seconds for that ad to be voiced. So.
Yeah, and some people would, send you scripts in, and that was always hard too, was telling if they got it from an agency, because the client would be paying the agency, and then we would just be the production house, basically. And then you'd have to go back to the client and say, well, your agency wrote you an ad that's 38 seconds long. What can we take out? And they would get all upset about it because,
you can't take anything.
You can't take anything out, and we
Yeah.
paid for that. Well,
I'm going to reach for my glasses, and you know what that means.
Oh, I know what that means.
It is time. Well, it means I'm old, but also.
Yes.
So just quick answers, all right? So
Whatever comes to your mind.
okay. When was the last time you skated on the Rideau Canal?
this past winter with my son.
Okay, good answer.
Yeah, this past winter.
What is your favorite park in Ottawa?
Oh, we'll say, well, not exactly rapid. I'll say Confederation Park. I like Confederation Park.
Confederation Park, okay.
Yeah.
I'll accept that answer. Have you ever been inside the Parliament buildings?
Not recently, and I was going to say no, but the Parliament buildings have been inside me, but that's...
Okay,
Ooh,
that's
what is your
next question.
What is your favorite bar in the Byward Market?
My favorite? Oh, I like Tomo. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's a Japanese themed bar, and they have good drink specials on Sunday night.
Okay, you're not supposed to give them a plug.
Where to the Byward Market?
Where do you go to be recognized the most in Ottawa?
Right here.
Right here. That's the best answer.
What is the last restaurant in Ottawa that you dined and dashed at?
I can honestly say I've never dined.
Oh,
No.
Oh,
Shoot.
good for you.
That's boring.
Yeah.
Name the establishment that you were last kicked out of.
Oh, I got kicked out of a Max Milk when I was in the 8th grade, so it was a
Wow,
while ago.
that's slow. I've never been kicked out of a Max Milk.
What would your favorite street be to streak on?
Probably Elgin.
Okay, that's a
Is it
common. That's a
popular
common.
one?
It's pretty common. Yeah.
Where in Ottawa was the last place you were arrested?
Streaking on Elgin Street.
You get the
And
last
which
one.
area of town did you last go through a ride program successfully?
Parkway, getting off the Parkway.
Okay.
Nice, very nice.
It's-
Okay, well,
if you want to, it was a Parkway right by Lincoln Heights.
Lincoln Heights.
oh, I know that area.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I love that. That stretch of the Parkway is very nice. Very
Yes.
pleasant to drive.
Yeah.
John, when did you, now that we have the silliness taken care of,
Oh.
when did you know that writing was for you? Like,
Honestly, I think I just kind of fell into it. Like,
yeah.
Really?
yeah, I know. Like at a young age, I'd like to write stories and that, but in terms of like a career, I think it was I fell into it and I just enjoyed it. I think I just always liked storytelling, and I thought that the commercials were, little.
Yeah.
30. I don't. It's kind of sad because I find them now when I hear them, they're all client voiced. Come visit me, and I used to love when there were the stories to it, and they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
But maybe they'll come back. I don't know. But actually, you know what? Somebody told me that happened post 9/11. People were looking for like comfort and reassurance, and one of the things that advertisers saw was that if they spoke to their audience directly, people felt a better connection with them, and maybe it is. I don't know.
Do you think that maybe also with the crazy popularity of reality television, that now that makes more sense because now everybody's talking directly to their audience,
and everybody wants to be sort of the voice of their brand. And I think maybe that could also be a detriment because after a while it really does become white noise. Like next time you're in the car, listen to a stop set of commercials. You're going to hear car ads, and you're going to turn it off and go, I have no idea what that ad was for.
Right.
All I know is that they're overstocked.
And somebody
should be fired because they're overstocked again.
But then, getting back to this thing that I do with the association, that blog kind of became sort of my new little. I guess at the time radio was the thing I loved, and I still do love it. But writing this, this little blog that I think is growing slowly and taking time, it's sort of become like a little thing you want to see develop and become more popular.
Now, there are a lot of bloggers out there and blogs. What do you think makes a successful blog?
I think you got to be a mummy. Everybody loves the mummy blogs.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure what you meant there.
That's a thing, right? The mummy blog.
I never heard that.
Oh God, yeah. I don't know what really makes a successful blog.
Yeah.
I think you have to have a unique perspective on what you're talking about. And a little credibility. And I think people will find you, if you put it out there. I got a huge compliment. It was the stupidest thing, but somebody had taken a picture of SpongeBob and written, "Oh goody, the weekly blend is here," and they forwarded that to me, and I was like, "Wow!" Like somebody cared enough to like create this little meme about this thing I do, and I was like, "Okay, good, you like it." And it's funny because when I do this blog. If somebody does tweet about it and I see, or they leave a comment and I see where they're from, so if they're from, Kamloops or wherever, I'll go for the next week to try to find a real estate story for them.
Oh, nice.
Because I figure if they're looking, then maybe, why not keep them engaged?
Do you use humor when you're writing for that particular blog?
I got to use, because sometimes the headlines are just boring, like another tiny house.
Okay, we know how you feel about tiny houses.
But so I would just get to write a new headline about it.
Yeah.
And they came in, took professional photos of us, which made us look really professional.
That's cool.
But I always felt, and it goes back to when I first started in broadcasting at Algonquin, the radio station there was 20 watts, which is not as powerful as your average light bulb.
Right.
Yeah. So it was at Woodruff Avenue. So it was blasting Center Point. Like that was
about it. Yeah.
Pretty much it. And if you had an antenna, maybe Bronson Avenue. But whenever I would turn the mic on, I always felt like it was 100,000 watts, and it was going to, the city and all points in between. And I think that really helped give me confidence when the mic would go on. So I took that same perspective to writing a blog. Now the one I write personally, like whatever, I don't think anyone reads that. And I would put posts on Facebook, and then people would go, you need help. But when I write this one for work, I always went with the attitude that there's a membership of 110,000 realtors across the country.
Okay, yeah.
Not all of them are reading it, but I always went on the assumption that all of them were reading it.
Yeah.
And I think that having that perspective in the back of my mind really helps bring out the best in what I'm putting out there.
Absolutely, I could see
And
that.
did it
for sure.
become what you envisioned it to become?
It's yeah. I mean, just when I would get those little comments every now and then, or when you would see the Facebook likes, because it would link to the Real Estate Association's Facebook page and Twitter account, and when you see the likes grow weekly,
Right.
And I'm not talking like 50,000 likes or whatever. I'm talking like 300.
Okay.
But still, just
Yeah.
to know that and people are forwarding it, because then we would start seeing on Twitter, other realtors were taking snippets of the stories and forwarding them, and some of them were so obscure that you had to know where they were finding them,
Right.
and that was great. Share it.
Yeah.
That was always what it was envisioned to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know you brought a piece, something that you're going to read for us, and we'll get you to do that in a couple of minutes. We'll give you some time to just kind of collect your thoughts and whatever. But before we do that, it is time for... So either you have a choice. You can either give us your most embarrassing story, all right?
Okay.
How your eyes are like, oh, which one am I going to tell?
I got a number of them. Or you pick an envelope and just do what's in the envelope. I'm trying to think. You go for the envelope.
I'm going to go for the
Go
envelope.
for the envelope.
All right,
Yeah.
so I don't know what's in these. Well, I do, but I don't know what
yes.
order. So which envelope would you like?
I'm the middle child, so I'm going to go for number 2.
Number 2. I've got number 2 right here.
No,
Okay, so, all right.
I love the envelopes.
I do too. Are you ready for this? Sound people are going to love that. Okay, this is simple. Say the alphabet backwards in less than 60 seconds.
It's not gonna happen.
And go.
Okay.
Take a shot at it. No.
Z, Y, X,
Yep.
W,
Yeah.
V, U, T,
Nice.
R, no. Do you have it there?
Yeah, of course.
R, did I screw
I couldn't do it. Of course I have it.
R, Q, can I get up and just turn around and do that old, I'm going to
So I
sit
can hold it in
backwards
the
and I'll
mirror.
look at the mirror.
Can you see it?
No,
It was a good try. It was
yeah,
a good
we
try.
can't do another envelope, can we?
Yeah, no, it's
You know
all
what?
good.
It's unfortunate you didn't make it all the way through because we had a brand new vehicle we
Oh.
were going to give you. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen today. But listen, hey, thanks for playing.
So we're going to see you on the other side.
All right.
All right.
Awesome.
So anyway, thanks very much for coming,
Thank
and we'll
you.
see
Do
you
I have to
shortly.
stand up?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take a breath. Collect yourself.
Collect.
I will grab some water. So this is actually from my own personal blog the blog is called I Never Caught a Foul Ball. And I call it that because I never caught a foul ball at a baseball game. So anyway, that's a whole other story. But this is about my dog. And I'll pick it up from the point where I came up with her name. So it actually starts out, I still hadn't come up with a name for the new lady in my life. And one night while at the gym, I saw a news story featuring a doctor whose first name was, and quite possibly still is, Oakley. What a great name for my dog, I thought. And so it was decided, Oakley would be what we called her. She came home on a coldish November evening and spent the next 5 to 7 nights crying, whining, peeing, destroying, chewing, soiling, barking, tearing, scratching, eating, and being an overall giant pain in the ass. I looked over the contract I had signed and tried to figure out a way to return her. This just wasn't working out. There was a no return clause. It looked like I was stuck with her. Over time, we developed a friendship. She lay by my side when I was sick. She met us at the airport wagging ferociously when Jen and I returned from a trip, engaged to be married. She sprawled her body and contorted in ways unimaginable to the human eye, taking up virtually every inch of spare bed space between my wife and I. And she would put her body in front of our baby's stroller to make sure we stopped and looked both ways before we crossed any road. Oakley and I would take long walks in all types of weather. A favorite spot of ours was the local dog park. We'd meet people and we'd become familiar and friendly with them. I couldn't give you a single person's name because knowing them was never important. Knowing their dogs was. On our walks, we'd sometimes get lost, and the anxiety and panic which I once felt wasn't there to frighten me. Oakley had done, Oakley had done what no therapy, change in diet, reduction in caffeine, or pharmaceutical was able to. She had erased my worry. During the course of her brief life, she brought me into a world I never had known. Before I had her, I had very little interest in pet stores and doggy daycares. I wasn't concerned with the best type of dog food, and I had no idea that, for a dog, chocolate was deadly. Oakley made me more social. She introduced me to a cast of characters that I would have never known. She brought people into my life and made my life better because of that. This four-legged love fest did come with her share of problems. She did seem to get cancer an awful lot. She needed to have her rear cruciate ligament repaired. A skunk unloaded on her one night, and she got into a fight with either an angry cat or our raspberry bushes. I also can't forget to mention the time she ate poppy seeds and I called poison control asking if my dog just ingested opium. These are just a few of the comical mishaps in the life of Oakley. Then, of course, her brief time with me and my family came to an end. It seemed to happen almost overnight. Her back legs just stopped working. Our vet gave us some medicine, but he really didn't think it would work. We made our way to his clinic on Good Friday 2010. On the way, we stopped at a bakery. Jen and I got a cup of coffee and we bought a chocolate chip cookie for Oakley. We knew that the chocolate couldn't harm her anymore. I can't believe I'm getting all teary-eyed about something I wrote a few years ago. We knew that the chocolate couldn't harm her anymore. As we were sitting there with the hatch of our van open and Oakley resting on the floor, a man walked by and said, "You have a beautiful dog there." When you bring your 12-and-a-half-year-old arthritic dog to the vet for the 4:30 appointment, odds are pretty good you're only going home with a leash, a collar, and memories. And that's what we did on that warm Friday afternoon. I still think about her every day. I miss her, I have crazy dreams about her, and I remember the fun we had for 12.5 years. I don't really know how to end this properly, so I'll just end it by saying, good night to my beautiful Oakley. Wow. Your impact on my life will never be forgotten. Stupid dog. Anyway, that's it. Oh, thank you. Oh, and those are for me? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Stupid dog. Yeah, I know. Thank you. Wow. Thanks. That was it. Do I get off my back? Oh, thanks. Yeah. Wow, thank you. Go there. Thanks. Oh, in the back corner. Oh,